All right, let's talk some of the big issues happening in our country this morning with my guest seated. Dr. Ahmed Jinapor is a lecturer, University of Education, and Mr. Yawafeni is Deputy General Secretary Administration with the Convention People's Party. Good morning to you, gentlemen.
Good morning, sister.
I hope that you're well.
Fantastic.
Sure. Let's start off with this judicial service sanctions and the disciplinary committees constituted by the Honorable Lady Chief Justice to investigate the conduct of staff cited in the Anas Aremiyaw Anas of Tiger IPI petition have concluded their work in respect of some of the staff. Their reports were submitted to the Judicial Council and management. And the council, they've dismissed quite a number of their staff. My question is this what we were expecting? And these people were involved either with the negotiations for the people who wanted to meet the judges, some collected things on their behalf to give to the judges and so on and so forth. So they kind of facilitated. And this is what they get for being a part of that. I'll start with you, Dr. Jinapor. Is this what we're expecting?
Well, let me say good morning to your cherished viewers. I wouldn't say this is what we expected. This is what it is. In the sense that, as a matter of fact, most people were quite skeptical about how this was going to unravel, because we've had a number of, what do they call it, committees that have been set. Mm-hmm. We don't hear of the reports. And even if something is being done, you hear nothing about it. And I think when it comes to this issue, right from the judges who were involved, right from the way the issues were handled, in terms of committees and all those, I think the leadership of the judicial system needs to be applauded. And if you read the press release regarding the staff, you'll be surprised to even find out that even daytime watchmen were involved. You know, we have recorders, we have interpreters, we have. So it gives you at least a picture of how cumbersome this whole thing was. It wasn't just limited to what? The judges. And if you had the opportunity of watching some of the tapes, you see that there were individuals who were even making more money than the judges. You know. So back to your question, is that what we expected? I think, once again, this is what we get. And I hope this becomes a deterrent to people who, one way or the other, will be interested in doing this. And you agree with me, it's not just limited to the judicial system. I mean, it permeates through all fabric of our society. I mean, today I was listening to the news and we are told there's an Auditor General's report, 2004-2015, where a number of pre-tertiary institutions are indicted. About 13 million Ghana cedis, you know, pre-tertiary institutions. And if you listen to some of the schools that are involved. So I wish Anas's expose is not just an individual activity, but it becomes something that more or less becomes a model, you know, that runs through. I mean, we can all become Anas within our own small corner, you know. So once again, let's applaud the leadership of the judiciary for the swiftness that this has. I don't think it's more than a year. It hasn't.
No, it hasn't been.
It hasn't been up to a year.
Have they dealt with it holistically, in your view?
Well, by what with the report, because the report is quite in depth. There are some who were exonerated. As a matter of fact, there are some who were punished for receiving gifts. For receiving,
some were reprimanded for accepting thank you gifts from representatives of Tiger IPI. Sure. Some were exonerated and restored to their previous positions. We've had some who were also dismissed. Yes. Some have been removed from office for holding ex-parte discussions.
I think you cannot get any comprehensive report on a program like this than this. Honestly, I have not had the privilege of more or less getting to know the processes, but I think this is quite comprehensive and it's quite elaborate. in the sense that it gives you details of who is who, and it goes further by even mentioning the names.
Yes.
You can't get anything more than this. It goes further by mentioning the names. But I think at the end of the day, it's not just about what has happened with the judiciary, what Anas has done, but this should become something that should go through, because if not for this president, I never thought gift is anything that should be, you know, that should be all. Because it says specifically that thank you gifts.
Yes.
So it's not like it's a bribe, but just for the fact that you are accepting a gift. And you know how our system is, our culture. See, when it gets into, I mean, occasions, see people sending all kinds. I mean,
but I want to believe that this is more of, you know, why they're giving you what they're giving you, even though they're not saying
you know that the point is this: when you ask for something in return for a service or a favor, it's bribe. You understand?
Sure.
But when somebody gives you something that, oh look, thank you for helping me do this, even though you do not ask for it, is deemed as thank you gift, but it can also be seen within a certain context as bribe. So you have some people, you give them gifts for service render. They say, no, I don't want it. I mean, I'm doing my job. By this release, the committee is saying that is how it ought to be. If you are doing your job, I mean, why do you have to more or less receive gifts for it? You know, so immediately you start receiving those gifts, then it gets to a time that it becomes something like you will have to do it. You know, you go to most of these government offices, they will not ask you to bring money, but you have to put something under the envelope. I mean, under the paper. If not, your
you
paper
spend the whole day there.
Yeah, your paper will not move. And that is a culture that the judiciary is trying to more or less nip in the bud. And I think it's something that should be welcomed. And I really hope and pray that it's not just about these people being sacked, but we are going to take some lessons out of it.
Sure.
Some lessons needs to be taken. And I think that the Chief Justice needs to be applauded.
Ms. Afeni, do we expect people to fight back, just like in the cases of the judges?
Right, thank you very much, and good morning to your viewers and your team. Before I hit on that, if you permit me, let me just quote two, paragraphs, very small ones, from the Axioms of Kwame Nkrumah on the civil service. And I quote, he said, the sole test of a civil servant, that is a civil servant's conduct, should be his ability to perform the tasks which are entrusted to him. Anything else is entirely immaterial. The fundamental virtues of a civil servant is punctuality, or are punctuality, unfailing courtesy, a pleasant disposition, modesty, and willingness to serve the public at all times. It must be said of him, he is so efficient and hardworking, and yet humble. These virtues we naturally expect you to uphold in the performance of your duties, whether these be in your offices, workshops, garages, hospital wards, post office, customs counters, railway booking offices, or elsewhere, right? And again, he says, I am averse to the civil servants being lodged in the state of apparatus like a nail without a head. Once you drive it in, you cannot pull it out. Government must retain the right to dismissal, and the civil servant must be made to realize that he can be dismissed. If he does not perform the job required of him, he must be grappling with his work all the time, thinking 24 hours a day how best he can serve the country. We live in the country or a situation where the civil servant have been made to feel as if he can never be punished for the wrongs that they commit within the society and the positions that has been given to them. Sincerely speaking, this decision by the Judicial Council is welcomed. But for us, the Convention Post Party, or as a person, we expected a lot to be done. So much has gone on, which we are all aware, but we are told that it is perception. Remember, within the same judicial service, when cocaine exhibit was, placed into their custody, it got missing.
But that was the police.
No. The police headquarters was the NPP's administration. And the NDC's administration, we found
it turned into Konkonte, didn't it?
Yes, but so in the long run,
there's a difference between missing.
The cocaine got missing because the cocaine, if somebody did not take it from them, definitely would not turn into Kunkunte, right? Under the watch of the Judicial Service and under the watch of the security cameras of the police headquarters. Not the headquarters or not the police command at the Sefioso area, right? So these are the loopholes, and we know them. It is so unfortunate to take a private investigator to unravel the mysteries within the Judicial Service and within our society. Are we saying that we are not aware of the things that are going on within the government circles?
They say evidence.
Evidence is the problem, as we see. You know, as they say, the law is a certain, 4-letter words. And that is what is killing us. The taxpayers' monies are being used anyhow. We know that we ourselves as individuals, we give bribes when we go to the various courts and other areas to, as it were, like my brother rightly said, put some money under the carpet or under the envelope before somebody will have to act on your way. Something that is your right. They deprive you of it. Yes, this particular expose with the mentioning of names, this is naming and shaming aspect. So if you have a...
Well, they want to say that, so we're putting it out there, don't do any business with them. You do it at your own risk.
Oh, I wish they would put it out there to serve as a deterrent. That is how I believe in. But asking others not to do this, say, we know this country. In fact, when the investigation was going on, I wouldn't be surprised, more was going on in terms of these same corrupt practices. You understand? The practices have been made to, as it were, grow because there have never been punishment for people who commit their wrongs in our society and the institutions that we have handed over to them to head. And this is the problem we face as a nation.
How do we solve it?
We need a decisive and a bold leader. We need honest and selfless people.
You're taking it back to the very top.
Exactly. But don't forget that it should be, bottom. That's a top-bottom approach, because if somebody wrongs, misbehaves downstairs, you have the authority to fire him. That is why I gave the two quotes. The government might be seen in firing and hiring.
But how about the whole talk of strengthening institutions? So we see this happen within the judiciary.
Yeah.
We see the judiciary take an action. This has nothing to do with the overall boss of the country.
My sister.
Shouldn't we be encouraging things like this?
It is not only within the judiciary that this particular canker exists. It exists even at the presidency. It exists in our police administration. It exists in our army, everywhere.
But what I'm just saying is, how about every leader within these institutions that you've mentioned taking some responsibility and taking some action and showing real leadership?
No, you see, that is
instead of boxing everything and saying it's at the doorstep of the president.
That is why I mentioned selflessness and commitment to duty. Most of the appointments made are from the president in most of the institutions that we have, the public service. And you would have realized that in the Auditor General's account, the rot in it there has come out as a result of the leader in that institution failing to monitor and evaluate the monies that are given out to the various districts to undertake projects. And so if you are a president and you have appointed somebody to head or to represent you in a particular district assembly, and the person misconduct himself or herself, it is your right to fire that person, irrespective of where the person party colors is. You must fire the person. But we have come to a situation where the Auditor General's report has given ample evidence of corrupt practices, misapplication of funds, misuse of funds, or sometimes, complete thievery. But we sit down and look at them because they belong to our party. If you remember very well, back in the days of the Convention People's Party, those who even brought Nkrumah to power, the Gbedemas and the rest, when they wanted to use the state monies or when they wanted to, engage in conflict of interest by, setting up real estate, they were stopped in their track. That this is conflict of interest. You cannot be in my government as a leader or as a key member of my government and then go into real estate or engage in other businesses that will bring shame to the government. And this is what the preceding governments have not noticed, that anything that your appointees do, whether positive or negative, the repercussions will come to you. If it is positive, we would praise you. If it is negative. But it appears that after the overthrow, that is the illegal overthrow of the Convention People's Party, all the leaders that have come have just supervised corruption. And up to date, today it is worse in its form. It comes in so many faces. And we have a president who doesn't care. What he says is that we are fighting corruption.
How do you come to the conclusion that he
You see,
doesn't
the
care?
conclusion is that if you look at Jida and Sada and the rest, what have we seen? We have seen Abu Gapele being persecuted, right? What has come of it up to date? Woyome's case, 2010 to date, how many years now? We are still grappling with as to whether even the monies that the Supreme Court has ordered us to collect, whether we collect it or not. This is because there's a syndicate that, as it were, shared this money. It is alleged that there's a list of people who collected this money, and it is within this same government, plus the SY administration. Some of them are also involved. So this Woyome's money, unless the same people who collected the monies contribute back into the state coffers, otherwise we are heading nowhere. This is the reality of the situation. But they will tell you that bring evidence, bring that, bring that. Yes, where is the evidence? We see these are no more perceptions. So we should be real in our dealings with, public funds and the taxpayers' money. And what is more serious is that all the issues that are happening within our system, those who understand the nitty-gritties are a few. That is how come we still have these corrupt practices going on. If you go to the hinterlands and you ask them to, tell you, the money is paid to Woyome, or the issues about the judges for which a certain decision has been taken, they don't understand. Even in our tertiary institutions, how many of them understand the nitty-gritties of these payments that are made, right? So
you've kind of boxed all these issues together, and you're putting it at the doorsteps of one person.
Not just one person, but a complete institutional failure that has, existed for a very long time up to this time without any structure to curb the situation.
Let me come in very quick.
Because he brings in the Woyome situation, because the NPP had a press conference yesterday, the kind of saying that the actions to take the monies from Woyome, these are deliberate to delay the process. If you can,
I think we can tie. But I think Mr. Yao is the Deputy Secretary for CPP.
Deputy General Secretary,
in charge of administration. And he makes the point that corruption in this country has moved beyond perception to reality, where he makes reference to Woyome's case, where there's a syndicate between Woyome and a group of people where money is being shared.
Woyome's case doesn't make sense, does it?
Yeah, I'll get there. But what I'm trying to say is that, you see, the point is, there are political talks. Look, I sitting here as an individual buy or share into the idea that, look, corruption in this country is something that's a reality. But you need to be very careful the way you go about, especially when you don't have the evidence. I'll give you a typical example. In CPP, your own former chairperson, Sammy Nkrumah, chairperson. As a matter of fact, she contested to be presidential candidate of your party. She came out not too long ago to make the allegation that your presidential candidate, Green Street, was being sponsored by the NDC. What does that mean? It's marks of corruption.
Exactly.
Is it the case? Maybe not.
But I sat on this show and I asked, so what's the big deal?
No, what's the big deal? But it's marks of corruption.
Yes.
It's marks of corruption.
Exactly.
If we are going into a context and one of them is being sponsored by a certain government, what is the motive and what is the intent?
It just means that secretly, I believe in your ideologies.
Why should it be secret?
I wish you win.
Why should it be secret?
I wish you win.
No, why should it be secret? So the point that I'm trying to make here is that, look, with particular reference to this judicial scandal, and before I get to it, with particular reference to this judicial scandal, it was something that happened. Somebody, one way or the other, said, look, let me go and do an investigation. The person did an investigation, the person came with the report, the person gave the report to the authority looked at it, have come out with these measures. I think they need to be commended. It's as simple as that. And my position is that...
Which he rightly does anyway.
Yes, and I think my position is that these activities that took place in the judicial service should be emulated by other services like the police and all those kind of things. But that does not mean...
But you and I know that won't happen unless somebody exposes something else.
It should. I don't want us to be too cynical. It should. Under normal circumstances, that's how it's supposed to be.
But in reality?
In reality, it's happened at the Judicial Council.
If they were going to follow suit, they would have started something by now. Would have seen traces of it.
But you see, this issue about the Woyome issue, and Yao makes reference to it. Recently, there was a ruling at the appeals court. And I wished you had the ruling and what the judges said. There were 3 justices.
This last one.
The last one. Justice Phoebe, Justice Kobe, and Justice Mensah. And if you read the ruling, for some of us who at a point in time had said, look, there was finality to this Woyome issue because Woyome had agreed that I'm going to what? Refund the money. And you read what the justices are saying with specific reference to this particular case, then it gives some of us shivers. Because one of the justices, I think Justice Phobia, I don't remember very well, goes to the extent of saying that Wyome's claim is a claim of his right. That is his right.
But you know, the appeals court was not necessarily looking at the case.
The appeals court was looking at the criminal aspect of it.
Calling witnesses and stuff like that. They were only looking at a judgment that had been given before.
That is it. But if you listen to what they said, and even the appeals court, you agree with me that it was supposed to be looking at what the criminality of Woyome in terms of not the case in itself.
Yeah.
But I would like you to go back and look at the ruling and what they said. It moved beyond it because it went into the fabric of this whole case. One, whether Woyome had a contract. Whether Woyome had a contract. And by their ruling, they are saying that, look, Woyome was entitled to it by virtue of what right. Two, this conspiracy issue, i.e. being Betty Mould and all those people. And even one of the justices went further to say that, look, Betty Mould gave what? Professional and legal advice. You understand? So I have stated on this particular platform that the Woyome issue, even though it's legal, it's also political. So when I hear the NPP make the case that the NDC is reluctant to retrieve this money because they have an interest, to a reasonable extent, I agree with them. I agree with them in the sense that the NPP has always made a claim that the NDC always go to court by, I mean, more or less, they go in a soft target. They don't do what is expected.
We didn't mean to fight the case.
Yeah, they don't fight the case as it's supposed to be. So my interest is, I would like to see the reverse when NPP is in power. No, it's a fact.
On this particular case?
On this particular issue, let me just land.
Well, there's been a ruling already, so...
No, there's been a ruling, but, I mean, the ruling is that the guy should retrieve, the money should be retrieved. That's what Nana Kumia is saying. Nana Kumia is saying that NDC as a party is being like a dassical in the retrieval of that money because they have an interest. So, my hope is one day, if by what Nana Kumia is saying is true, one day, if NPP is in power, we will see whether they'll be able to retrieve the money. If they are not able to, then at least the NDC will be vindicated. But if they are, then what happens? The claim that they've made is what? Is factual. So I think the Woyome issue, as I said, look, like it or hate it, it's been a political issue. You remember how important and the place that it had in the 2012 elections. You remember Woyome, they were singing all these songs, you know, and the case has kept on dragging. But as I said, look, I would like our viewers to go back, take the ruling by the appeal court justices just not too long ago, read the ruling very well, then make a decision. Because when I read the ruling and I juxtaposed that with the ruling by the Supreme Court, I was a little bit surprised. I said,
so where do you stand now?
No, I stand to be confused. Just as most Ghanaians. No, I stand to be confused.
Exactly.
I stand to be confused in the sense that, look, this case has traveled for a very long time. Not just the longevity of time, but it's gone through almost all the processes in our judicial system. And I thought for the Supreme Court being the highest court of the land, making a ruling that the guy does not deserve the money, he should pay the money back. And most importantly, Woyome as a person agreeing to come out with what? A payment plan. I thought the issue was what? Was complete. So where is all these things about international arbitration, these things about appeals court?
Oh, we had that one. Was just a
but as I said, look, it's a political issue. And it will always have a political, what do they call it, traction. In as
so
much
we'll
as
get our money back in effect?
that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that
I'm
for
just
now,
trying to draw a conclusion based on the analysis.
But even this money that we've been talking about, our money back now, the money has been going for what? Since 6 years. If Woyome was investing...
It's depreciated, by the way.
Not depreciated. If he was investing properly,
he would
he should have been able to make more profit and give us our 51 and keep maybe his $21 million. But you see, it goes to tell you the kind of society in which we are, where certain times issues of this nature, issues of more or less serious fraud against the state tends to be given political interpretation, and depending on which side of the political pendulum you swing to determines what you say. Because it looks as if today, as we speak, there's unanimity between both political parties, the NDC and the NPP, that Woyome doesn't deserve the money. Because as we speak, it is the NDC administration that is in court asking Woyome to refund the money. And NPP is saying that, look, Woyome, first of all, did not have a contract. So if there's unanimity, why is it that we can't claim the money from a single individual? Especially when the Supreme Court has ruled. So, I mean, we will wait and see how things play out. But, of course, the political chess game is going to go on. But I strongly believe that in terms of politics, we've moved beyond Woyome. Woyome, as a political issue, was more relevant and more attractive in 2012 than in 2016. 2016, we are looking at flats. Just wait not
so you think this Woyome issue is not one that Ghanaians would worry about?
No. We've passed it. And Ghanaians have made a decision. For some Ghanaians, look, the guy has chopped the money, we won't get it.
So let's move on.
Let's move on. For others, look, until NDC, MPP comes into power, we will not get this money. But as to Woyome going to be a determinant factor for somebody to vote for NDC or MPP, I think we've passed it.
Sometimes I wonder how much it costs us to go to courts on the cases, on Woyome cases alone.
How much it costs us as a nation to discuss it on television? How many times have you talked about Woyome? We talk about it almost every time. Today, we should have been talking about something else, but we are talking about Woyome. We haven't quantified the effects of this discussion.
But the point is that Woyome is a big deal because the money is huge, and the money would do us a lot of good.
Well,
really.
You see, the point is this. I think the whole Woyome issue is not necessarily about the money in terms of the quantum, but it's about the person Woyome and the circumstances upon which the money was retrieved. Because you agree with me at a point in time. We had a whole judgment debt commission being set up.
Yeah.
At a point in time, judgment debts were becoming a thing of, there was so much money that was coming out of the state coffers and stuff like that, dubiously, or whatever it is. So it's not necessarily about the quantum. There has been so much money that have been blown on projects that are more than this $51 million. So much money. But the argument here is, one, was there conspiracy on the part of certain individuals, with certain groups of organizations, institutions, and individuals to rip this country off, especially under the spectrum of judgment debt. You see? And if you remember, the circumstance of Woyome, the president by then Mills, I ordered not to be paid, I was not aware. So it was kind of juicy, it was a juicy political issue. But what I'm trying to say here is that the Woyome issue, in terms of giving any political party political advantage or electoral fortunes, was more relevant in 2012 because it was quite fresh. But today we've passed it.
Sure.
We've passed it. I mean, if you want to use it as a means of gaining political capital, forget it.
Okay. You kind of agree with that?
Yeah, I do. And you see, I made mention of the fact that those who understand the issues are a few. And the majority who are going to vote don't even care about what monies have been paid or not paid, right? As we speak, Doc made assertion to the fact that maybe when the NPP comes to power, from what they are doing, they might retrieve this money. I tell you, Doc, it will never happen.
It will never happen. They won't come to power, or
first, even if they were to, they wouldn't be.
They will not come to power.
In the unlikely event that they come to power, they won't do it.
Who will come to power? CPP.
The Conventional People's Party, of course. If Ghanaians do not rethink and reconsider bringing the CPP back, things will be worse, I tell you, because we have a program that will benefit everybody. What I'm trying to say is that as we speak, as Nana Kumia sits down, espousing the fault of the NDC and the rest, don't be amazed that there will be people within his government who are saying that behind closed doors, that these guys, you are opening your mouth too much, because they have been part of the system.
This thing that you just said. You're saying that people within the NPP government who are saying that he's talking too much.
Exactly. Because Woyome worked with them, and he worked through also with
Woyome worked with who, Nana Komia?
With the NPP government, sponsoring their project here and there, right? So it's marks of hypocrisy. That is how I see it. Don't forget also that there's a typical example. When Vodafone was sold, and we were told by the NDC that ex-President Kufuor sat in his bathroom to sign the contract alone and all, whatever it is. I remember very well then candidate Mahama and Haruna Idrisu. They were all wearing red T-shirts, walking through the principal streets of Accra, going to, Vodafone offices, saying that when they came to power, they were going to reverse the whole deal. What has happened to it? It's just political gimmicks. They play on our minds. And the larger population who are not aware of what is happening because of lack of proper education, we also fall foul to it, and then we jump into the fray, and people even go to the extent of defending this dubious payment. The issue of Woyome, for us to allow a private person to even say that I am going to take him on alone, smacks of bad faith on the part of the ruling government. And there have been so many dubious and chronic payments in terms of judgment.
So for you, the CPP is, like our savior. Forget about MPP, forget about all the other parties.
I would not be here to describe the convention people as being saints, right? Even as we speak, possibly there are people within our small corner still being corrupt, right? But we need people to tell them that, look, you must stop this and do things that will benefit the larger masses. What we need to do is to change the status quo.
And that's what the CPP is coming to do. But don't forget that your candidate is not in Nkrumah.
You see, that is where
the legacy,
how many of us even know Nkrumah and appreciate
the things that you mentioned in Nkrumah and his speeches and things like that. That was in Kwame Nkrumah.
You see, I have always mentioned CPP and Nkrumah. I never mentioned Nkrumah alone. Because without CPP, there was no Nkrumah. Without Nkrumah,
so this is the CPP's ideology.
Ideology.
Okay.
And I'm saying that it is important that what is happening, we give our people the right prescription. That, look, you cannot be employed and then siphon government money from government. You cannot pick one A4 sheet from the rim and tell me that, oh, it's only single. If 25 people pick it every day, what would have been left in the office, right? These are the tenets that we have to instill in the people to work effectively and efficiently. And we will bring that to bear any country or any individual. For instance, I believe that as a city here, by the close of, even though today is about just 18th or 19th of the month, you know what you're going to use your salaries for, right? So if you don't...
No, I don't. No, I don't.
Then you are making a big mistake.
Almost every Ghanaian is...
Exactly. That is why we are in this situation.
I'm not doing hand to mouth.
Let me give you a tip.
Planning is very important.
I remember I was having a program with our finance officer. Then as part of the orientation of financial management, I said, look, if you are a serious worker, you should always have at least 2 months of your savings kept down for emergency. I sat down and I looked at this guy. I said, in this country, does he know what he's talking about?